Welcome everyone to Crossroads Crew Live. Oh my gosh, I just lost power here at the house and literally just got back online. Of course, that happens right before our show once a month. But we've got another amazing, exciting show lined up today. We've got several more rock star special guests that you'll just have to patiently wait to see who we have on today. My goodness, why don't we do this, you guys? Close a few of those tabs you've got open on your computer right now. Top off that favorite beverage that you've got there at your desk. And why don't we just sit back and enjoy our favorite hour of the month? Brad, let's crew it up.
We are the Crossroads Crew, bringing that fire to you. From the dorms to the boardrooms to raise up the you. Raise up the you. Every day we see it through. Higher ed dreams coming true. Brad Ward, drop the beat, let the whole place move. Crossroads Crew.
Welcome. What's up, boys? How are we doing? My goodness, it's already June. How are we feeling, boys?
Man,
so
great.
Here's what I love about this. Like, we're not together, but Ryan is going to tell you where he's at in a moment. I realize Ryan is 2.5 miles from an incredible institution that we partner with, and we are real time right now arranging Ryan and his group to go to that school. And I have people there who are getting ready to roll out the red carpet for those counselors. So
that's what we do.
Like, we're doing this as we speak.
That's just what we do. Like, we are in the moment. Things are happening. It's live. It's real. Like, that is what the show is all about.
Ryan, you're hiding where you're at.
I am on the great campus of FAU down here in Boca Raton, Florida. So another episode of Ryan being in Florida. Sorry.
I mean, come on. Like, this is supposed to be the Crossroads Crew, Indiana boys, and every single month you're in Florida. What's going on? My goodness.
So you can't be that close to FAU and not go check in at Lynn University.
Yeah,
and the great
I'm excited.
There. So
I'm excited to check in with
We're
them,
making that happen. Also,
that's awesome.
I was like, oh, you're at FAU. There's a Shake Shack across the street. So go get some ice cream, Ryan.
For sure.
How you know that, Brad? Jeez, I'm not sure.
I know. Of course, Brad is going to know.
Brad, have connections everywhere.
Happy National Donut Day, everyone. Yes.
Yeah. Well, guys, you're probably, if everyone out there that's tuning and watching, you're probably noticing we don't have Bart with us today. So unfortunately, Bart is on the road working like crazy. So he's not going to be with us physically, but you're still going to get a couple little treats from Bart that we're going to incorporate in the show. Also, make sure if you've not introduced yourself, we do have the chat. If you're watching live on YouTube or maybe LinkedIn, I think we go live on both those platforms. You actually need to access Crossroads Crew Live. I think you need to go to the website. So it's on, it's scrolling, you should see it. But that's where you need to go to access if you want to participate in the chat. And we really want you to do that. This show is for all of you, and we want you to engage with us. So make sure you do that. We got a great show coming up. Obviously, the first thing that we typically always kick off with is what we've been hearing. So we want to dive into that first segment, get things rolling. And so, Jeremy, why don't you kick us off? What have you been hearing?
Yeah, a handful of things. But the first thing I'd love to bounce off you guys, and Bart and I know he's not here, but talked about this just briefly through text. I've been hearing a lot from admissions leaders who are like, hey, like, talk to me about critical thinking, Jeremy, in this age of AI as AI kind of keeps growing, right? Meaning, like, Gen Z, for example, is, I'll say, given a lot of crap, for lack of a better term, in terms of their ability to be able to think. And there are a lot of great critical thinkers who are Gen Zers. But I keep hearing from a lot of leaders like, Jeremy, I feel like, AI is going to, not just for Gen Z, but even some of my older staff who are utilizing it, just kind of take away some of that creative thinking and strategizing. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on that, Ryan, because I know, again, it's something that probably has been happening in your circles as well.
Yeah, it's definitely the buzz in my circles too. And I heard a great leader share a good quote with me the other day. It's AI is becoming an infrastructure, not an innovation, right? And so when he said that, it just really sat with me. And I think that's true. The way the students are engaging with it is completely different than when they were engaging with it 6 months ago, a year ago, etc. So it's not a nice, I want to have this thing. It's no, they're using it. And I think Soup, you have some information about that as well that you want to share.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just literally, I think just this past week, Zemi dropped another one of their pulse surveys, that's so cool. They can just instantly throw out a certain, Jeremy and I we kind of did some of that back when I was still with Zemi, and you can instantly get feedback from, I mean, literally tens of thousands of students overnight. And so I would just say, if you've not taken a look at that, I mean, you can get on LinkedIn, you can just do, search Zemi, you'll see that there were some really interesting things in that most recent pulse survey. And to both of your points, like it's changing, month by month. So like a survey that maybe we did a year ago, it's different. The results are different. And so I think it's good to pay attention on a regular basis and not just go by, well, this was a study 2 years ago about what students feel about AI, because it's changing so much. So really important to keep in mind, like we all have our opinions of it and how we leverage it and use it. I'll be the first one to admit I'm long away from that demographic of really understanding, young people. So we truly need to listen to them, survey, get research to hear directly how they feel and how they're using and leveraging AI.
I saw something this week. So I put a link in the chat. We homeschool, and that decision did not come lightly for us. But 10 years ago, we decided we're going to take a different path, and it's the grand experiment of parenting, right? Like 18 years later, you learn if you did it right or you're wrong. But we have a very heavy emphasis on critical thinking and on just being able to problem solve and being able to look at problems in certain ways and work through that. The quote this week from Sam Altman that concerned me was talking about tokenization and basically tokens as credits to access knowledge. That is a terrifying thought to me, that we would need to rely on a company to access knowledge. We're, again, there's this kind of this joke that's like, go back to somebody 30 years ago and tell them the one thing that could blow their mind. And it's, we all have access to all information known to humanity, and it lives in our pockets, and we use it to scroll videos of cats jumping off couches, right? Like, the knowledge is there. The knowledge has been really centralized over the past 2 decades. And now I'm kind of watching it and wondering, will information go from accessible to a paid model? That's a scary
I think
thought.
some of that's coming, Brad. And I think what's interesting, and I'm even seeing this, at my daughter's high school, right? Like, there aren't a lot of, I'll say, clear guidelines around how schools and institutions, whether it's high schools, right, or colleges, want their students to use AI. And so it's kind of the same thing. And I see my daughter in the chat. Hi, Olivia. She's hanging out on the show today, but like, there just needs to be some clarity, I think. Like, I've had, a number of admissions counselors and one-on-ones, this calendar year say, like, Jeremy, what are your thoughts on me using AI to save myself time or something like that? And I'm like, well, what does, what does your leadership say about that? And it's, leadership hasn't talked to us about that, right? And so I think it's just maybe something else to put on leadership's radar, ultimately, to let them know, hey, like, you've probably got some staff, especially if you have Gen Zers, trying to utilize AI or utilizing AI without you knowing it, and just making sure that the guidelines and the clarity they need from you is there.
Well, and I think today, AI is becoming the table stakes, right? And it's no longer, it's somewhat of a competitive edge, but it's shifting a little bit, in my personal opinion, as well, from adoption to full implementation. But the students know whether you're using it or not. So I think we got to keep that in mind and keep the personalization in mind as well.
Well, I mean, again, just look at it, on the industry side too. It literally just seems like this past week or two, I mean, College Vine with a new product that they announced and released, and, Campus ESP, a really, cool new product that they announced and released. I mean, just, pretty much all of our companies, that's the direction they're going, trying to lean in on leveraging. And there's still this part of me, though, that kind of pulls me back. And I understand efficiency. I understand doing things better at scale and, taking the mundane things away that we have to do to free us up to like invest more time. But it's just this strange space we're in right now. Like, and I just feel like, part of the beauty of what we all do is the process. Part of the beauty of admissions, part of the beauty of enrollment and recruitment is the journey, the process, the time that it does take to foster the relationships and things. And, I know efficiency is probably better, but I don't necessarily know that I always believe faster or more efficient or those things is necessarily ultimately better. And so, yeah, it's one of those things I grapple with it and go back and forth. Brad.
I know we're going to Bart next for his AI tech tip, but I think just also like broadly acknowledging that all of these new products, tools, services, features, whatever, are generally built on the same LLMs that you can already access. They're just being wrapped and packaged in unique ways. So, before you go spend a ton of money on some new AI product, like, have you tried to build it yourself, or have you talked to your IT office or some very smart computer science juniors looking for a fun senior project? And obviously there are hurdles that come with that. But when I look over time, a lot of products that exist in our space are just repackaged products from other options. And some of the stuff we do, like, we're leveraging tools and products and platforms and putting them in unique ways and reducing friction. And it works, and it works for the school. But there's always some level of that. Like, could we do this ourselves, or could we do it for cheaper? And I think ultimately you should wrestle with that from a fiscal standpoint, of just, being responsible with budget.
Sweet. Before we jump in and transition to the next segment, let's get a quick maybe pulse check from the audience. Anybody want to jump in, post something that's just been on your mind this week, something you're working on, something you're tackling? We always want to love to hear from you. So jump in there, share those in the chat. Now we're going to transition into segment number 2, which is my favorite segment, where we always talk about AI advice and tech tips. And I think we're going to load up Bart here to still share with us, even though he can be on.
You have to clap twice for it to work.
Oh, I have to clap twice?
Yeah. Hey, here's a new tip too to talk about with connecting Spotify playlists. I know one of the things that is always important is that you've got some music that you want to use for events or things like that. Now, make sure you get a Spotify license that allows you to do that. That there's a specific thing that you can do to kind of make sure that you've got the ability to play legally public music through Spotify. But let me just show you how to create the list utilizing Claude. So first thing you want to do is you want to go to Customize, and you're going to go to Connector, and you want to do a search here for Spotify, and you can actually connect the Spotify account, and it's going to let you, turn on the permissions and things like that. But just right out of the box, it's just going to be able to allow you to, it'll give you an approval to say, yes, I can do that. Then you're going to connect your Spotify account. And once you do that, you can go back and it's all connected. You can just basically say, create a Spotify playlist for me that utilizes the best known artists from Kentucky. And I want this to be for a admissions event with a high energy playlist. Ask me any questions you need to do your best work. And so if you do that, you're going to get basically, you just have to talk to these tools. You don't have to get really crazy about the prompts. That was 2 years ago. Now all you have to do is just kind of act like you're talking to an intern or somebody in your office. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm inviting a conversation to this tool to go back and forth. And so basically it's going to go through and it's going to start asking me some questions. And so as it's thinking through, you're going to be able to kind of direct it on what exactly that you want it to do and how you want it to think a little bit further. So now it's come back and it said, happy to build this. Kentucky has deep bench across genres. So a few quick choices. So do I want clean radio? So basically, yeah, I want to have a clean radio version. I want it to be basically, an hour. I want it to be, lean into rock. So I've got this idea. So let's just say I'm going to surprise me, and let's do a broad mix because I'm going to be talking to a lot of different people here. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit that and get this going. And so basically what it's going to do now is it's going to put together the Spotify playlist. It's going to go out and research all the songs, research the artists, figure out everything. And as it's thinking through this, it's got a clean radio. It's about an hour long, building you a high energy Kentucky lineup now. So it's actually connected now to Spotify. And so now you've got all these different songs in here. And so you can actually go and you can open up Spotify and move it around and change it. And so it's called Kentucky College Energy. It's saved to your Spotify list. It's a private list by default, and then you can go through and clean it up. And so that's really how you can jump in here quickly. You can then customize the artwork with your school logo, do some other things here, and go from there. Hope it's helpful. Okay, happy first Friday. Sorry I wasn't able to join you today, but I wanted to kind of walk you through a few things that are amazing about the new Claude. I'm doing this on Friday, May 29th. I'll be out of the office next week, so I wanted to at least give you some things here. But I'm using Claude, and it's the desktop app, and you can do some amazing things in here. And I'm just going to show you a couple different things. One, if you click on here and you can customize, you can actually start connecting different parts of your system. And so if you're in Adobe, you can actually have Claude do some things, and it will actually create in Adobe Illustrator or Adobe InDesign. So I did some work the other day, and it actually provided the file to me in Illustrator. I can do the same thing with Canva. I can do, just this morning, I went through and said, hey, give me all the ideas that I gave a client for the past year during one of my ideation systems. And it went through and read all the fireflies for that particular client, came back and gave me a bulleted list of the 45 ideas that I gave them, categorized by enrollment, by retention, by different things like that. And so that is amazing that it went through and harvested all that information for me just by having these connectors. It connects to my Gmail. I can write emails, drafts for me just by using Claude on my phone. I can do Google Calendar. I can do Google Drive. So I've got access to all of my data, and I can actually go in and talk to it and have it pull things together. You can also go through and browse your connectors. So you can go through, and if you've got all these different types of connectors. So if you're a Microsoft shop and you got Microsoft 365, if you use Notion, I think it even has, I'm not sure if it has Salesforce. No, it doesn't have Salesforce, but there are a lot of other things there. Figma, Slack, I think Asana is probably in here. Yeah, Asana. So there's all kinds of ways that you can start interacting with these different things. You can also go in and do some plugins. And so you can actually have a design plugin or a marketing plugin. These are things that you can plug in that makes it smarter on that particular skill set. And you can also, speaking of skills, you can actually have it create skills. And so you can go shop for different skills. I actually went through and created my own skill. And so I've got the two plugins for marketing and design, but I can actually went in here too, and I created a format for all of the Kaler Solutions documentation. And so if I wanted to go in and actually, learn more about everything, and if I want to go in and edit this, I can edit the skill with Claude, and I can actually create skills with Claude. So to have it format everything into my report style, I uploaded old reports, I uploaded all the fonts, I uploaded all the assets, and then every time that I am done with a session, it puts a draft in the format in Google Docs so that I can actually work with it and edit it further. But Claude is just an amazing tool. You can get a lot of this with a free version. The pro version is well worth it for $20 a month. I'm actually saving so much time that I'm using the max version at $200 a month, but it's like having another employee on my team, another team member. And so it is worth it for me to be able to have that. But those are just a few things that I think that you might find interesting. Follow up with me if you want more clarification or if you want to take one of our AI master classes.
Can we just acknowledge that all the cool kids are leaving ChatGPT for Claude?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Brad, you're using Claude more too, aren't you?
I use both. Yeah, it depends on what I need it for. Yeah. I have not fully integrated Claude and CoWork and some of that. I feel like I should, but yeah, it's, you learn as you go. So I'm getting a little feedback.
Brad, did you have? Yeah, I think that's probably Ryan. I think there's birds or something out there we can hear. Who knows? Who knows what's happening with him? Brad, you got a tip for us?
I've got a few. So first of all, 82and0.com. I mean, this is like the vibe code game of the week right now. If you haven't
what is
yet. So somebody's come up with this game. Can you go 82and0 if you're a basketball fan? So you spin. And this is just more for fun. This is not going to help you with your job. But you get a team in a decade. So this is the Trailblazers in the 80s. And I have to pick somebody off that team. So I'm going to put Clyde. I'm going to put Clyde in the forward slot. And you pick your 5 players. Memphis 2000s. It's got to be.
Oh my gosh.
Pawn
It has to be white
and then,
chocolate.
and then it will basically tell you at the end, where Chris Webber for sure. And can you go 82-0 is the game. Chicago 10s, it's got to be Derrick Rose in the point guard slot. And so now I need a shooting guard, and I'm kind of stuck with whatever I get here. Kawhi Leonard, that's good. Okay, so I went 63-19 dynasty level.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Go try the game. Okay, here's another one. I'm gonna go Drew Carr because I know he's in the house, Nebraska Wesleyan. This is just a little tip that I sometimes use to mock something up quickly, or if I'm looking for like a quick design change or trying to visually show somebody what I'm wanting to do. You can just highlight something in Chrome and hit inspect, and it's going to pull it up over here. And you can make changes. So if you wanted to say Office of Admission, we are so excited to work with you, something like that. Not thinking much here about it. I'm going to close this. Again, it will basically just mock it up real time. So if I wanted to take a screenshot of that and say, hey, what do you think? I'm looking for something more like this. Obviously, you're not changing the internet here, right? So if I refresh the page, it's going to go back to it. But again, if we were trying to decide, like, should we say first year here or undergrad, something like that, again, you can just kind of mock it up and see what it looks like. If you're looking for an image, if I'm trying to get this image, again, I can right click inspect and basically just kind of pop into the code here and find that image. You've got to know a little bit of coding. I'm sure AI could do this for you, right? Just download and find that for me. But yeah, there's some neat stuff with an inspect that, again, sometimes I just find myself wanting to mock it up and, or if you want to take something to the web team and say, this is what I want it to look like, just to kind of quickly, I want that to say visit campus instead. And then I take the screenshot and send it over to them and just say, can you make it look like that? So
super useful tip. Yeah. I've never thought to like use it that way, just to quickly to kind of get a screenshot to show, hey, this is what we'd like to make a change. That's actually a really good tip. Very useful.
Maybe you go to your, meet the counselor page and put vice president of in front of your title and, send it over and somebody, hey, what do you think? Or, maybe Mason's like, oh man, that looks nice, director.
Love it.
Yeah, you can get in trouble. I tell you, I've mocked stuff up before. As you know, we live in Fishers. Fishers and Carmel are kind of constantly ranked like number 1, number 2 best places to live.
You just gave Drew Carr a whole bunch of ideas, Brad, on how to pick his staff. So
I mocked up the U.S. News World Report to have Upland, Indiana as number 3 because we have some friends moving there. They took a job with Taylor University, sent it to their kids and said, yeah, Carmel's 1, Fishers 2, but Upland is the 3rd best place to live in America right now. And the kids were like so excited. Yeah.
Oh, that's
right,
good.
What's next?
That's good stuff. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Bart. Those are always awesome. Great tips. I think we're ready maybe to introduce our first guest, and we're going to let Ryan make this introduction. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, thanks, Soup. I'm really excited to welcome our first guest to today's show. She is my sister from another mother. She is my best friend. She's my mentor. You name it. She's a fellow Hoosier. Nobody better than Lindsay Spear, Executive Director of University. There she is. Hey, girl.
Hey, Lindsay.
What's
Hello.
up, Lindsay?
And this was working. Hello.
Chirp, chirp.
Chirp, chirp. Let's go.
Lindsay, we're so excited to have you and have you talk a little bit about orientation. I've seen it firsthand. Orientation I know is near and dear to your heart. And so we thought you were the best person for this, for us to ask a few questions about it as teams enter the orientation season here. So thanks for being a part of it. I think to kind of get us going, the first question I have for you, Linz, it's a real simple one. At what point do you believe enrollment management job ends and that transition over to the student affairs team begins?
Never. But I would say truly, honestly, not until we call butts in seats where they're actually here in classes and moved in and everything is solid. There's so much transition that still happens, as we know, throughout the summer and different moving pieces that while others get involved. I think during the orientation process in the summer transition, I think EPM and enrollment still need to be very much involved and a collaborative effort until we get them here. And even then, there's a lot of things that happen, right? We know the first month or so of students here that they still come to us for questions or concerns because they don't know where to go. And so we're still helping. So there's never a complete like cutoff, but I truly don't think it happens really until they're here and they're in classes.
Well, let's touch on that just a little bit. Where do you think the biggest disconnect is between admissions or campus partners or after the students deposit? Where is that disconnect?
I think it depends on the institution, right? And your structure and the way and things you're set up, because every institution is a little bit different. But I think what happens is you get them confirmed, right? And then they enroll in orientation. So whatever orientation looks like. And then it's on to that area to take care of orientation or to take care of the move-in process or to take care of those next steps in the process that a student's journey may face. And so I think there's often times where once that happens, it's like, okay, we're good, wipe our hands. Now it's on housing, or now it's on orientation, or now it's on, activities that happen in August prior to move-in. Like they're now communicating with them. So I think it's often associated with like, okay, a student graduates from high school, graduation is done, we've done our part, and now it's like onward to somebody next, which is not successful in any way, shape, or form. But I think that often happens that way.
Can I jump in, Ryan? I got a quick question. I'm so curious because Lindsay, I know you've been doing this like for a while. Like, I would be curious to know, like, what has changed over the year? Like, what is different about this role and the operation that you have to do for orientation today that is very different than when you first started?
I mean, a lot of things, right? I look a little different than I did then. But I would say, so one, it used to be that, so for example, right, at Ball State, we started orientation this week, actually. So we started it on Monday, and we are welcoming 235 students every single day to our campus for the next 6 weeks. And our admissions staff is very involved in orientation. So our handoff doesn't happen until students are in classes and things are actually happening and going on. But what I will say is usually week one was like the energetic, excited, I'm ready to go student and family who they were on time, they were prompt, they were at everything, they were doing everything that they needed to do. And now it is not that way whatsoever. So just as we've been pulling teeth and strings and things to get them to do what they need to do and to actually, follow through on all the processes and, I'll do that next week, or, yeah, I'm going to come. Like they do come, but they're coming like an hour or more late and like, here I am and okay. And what's up and what's, and so it's just that energetic group, I think, that made everyone else excited to get things rolling and going. You have them, right? They're not completely gone. But it's just amazing to me how many even late shows we have this week that I'm like, come on, this is week one. You guys are supposed to be the people who are really excited about this. And it's not.
I can remember, I think Jeremy's going to jump in with a question, but I can remember when I was doing this back in the day, how different session one orientation was from the final session, just how the dynamic was so different. So yeah, it's a little scary if session one is starting out and you're seeing some of those things. So
I mean, they're like, you made me come. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, here we go. Jeremy, go ahead.
Well, and I know this is a loaded question, Lynn, so just give me your quick thoughts on it. Like, how do you make sure that the handoff is a warm handoff with any department, right? Where there's not a complete drop off in service? Because I know I hear this all the time. We're worried when we pass off to X group, so just thoughts on, Lynn's, things that campuses can do to start to either strengthen those relationships or find ways to do those handoffs better.
I think it's a lot of cross collaboration, right? But it's a lot of communication, not just in terms of like, okay, I start sending emails in July, so I'm gonna start sending emails in July, but updating those campus partners on what are you seeing and what are you feeling? What's the temperature of this class? What are things and trends you see them? Are they responding to things within 10 to 12 days? Are they responding to things at 3 p.m. on a Monday? Like we have all of this data that we can share with other people to kind of give an idea of like, we find when we send a message at this time or this day, it tends to be something that they open, or remembering that this group, does a lot more text engagement or video engagement than those pieces. So the more insight and perspective we can give them, it helps them. I also think we are constantly reminding campus partners of working with students that at this stage, you can't send everything to their university account. They are not checking that. They don't care a lick about that yet. So what's the best ways in which we are getting a hold of these students and these families? Also, like things to watch and pay attention to. Just the more insight you can provide, it's easier for them. And insight you provide in advance, it helps them prepare accordingly for all of these things. I also think though familiar faces, like even though maybe your institution, right, doesn't have admissions associated with orientation, but if your admissions staff can help out in any way, shape, or form, it also, there's that sense of like recognition, and there's that sense of like, oh, you're so and so, and I recognize you from X, Y, or Z, and you're here. Oh, okay. Or anything that you can, anything you can do to assist. I mean, our admissions staff is at check-in every single morning. We are the check-in staff for orientation, and so, I can't tell you how many times like, oh my gosh, you were my admissions person, and hi, or the parent who's like, oh, okay, there's that, familiar face, and like, it's going to be okay. So not just transitioning and handing it over, but offering to help, being helpful with it, and being present and involved in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we were out last week setting things up, and we were hot and sweaty, but that's just the way it goes. And it made it is the best we can for our students. So I think being intentional, but giving them insight perspective so they kind of have an idea, like Sue mentioned, of what's going on right now. Well, let's talk about what's going on right now, so they have an idea of what to expect and what works or isn't working from our end of things.
All right, Linz, I got one last question for you, and this is this is the hardest question ever. We got official word that the Hammond Bears are coming to Indiana. Okay. Are you going to, as a resident of the Hoosier State, are you going to cheer on the Hammond Bears, or are we going to cheer on the Packers still? Oh no, she froze.
Oh, this had the best time to freeze.
You're never gonna know, Ryan.
I'll answer it for her, guys. Lindsay is a diehard Packers fan. She has stakeholders and shares with the Packers. She is 100% Packer through and through. So
we didn't hear it. We didn't hear it. No, I don't believe it. I think
that just happened.
You can't make up the timing, though.
Wow.
If she jumps back on, Brad, you got to get that for us. But hey, everyone else, I got to run myself. Hey, it's been a great show. I'm going to tune back in.
Can I replace you, Ryan?
Yeah, go ahead, Brad. Right. Take it over, buddy. Thanks, guys.
See you, Ryan.
And as Ryan leaves, we're going to bring on Casey Hamlin. Casey, how we doing? How's the weather down in lovely Columbia, South Carolina today?
Warm.
I was going to say, warm. Just like Ryan in Florida. It is great to have you with us. Casey's the Assistant Director for Visitor Services at the University of South Carolina. And Casey gave a session last week at CIVSA, the big campus visit conference up in Minneapolis. And somebody I know was at that session and said, hey, Casey really provided a whole bunch of interesting information in that session. And we're getting to the point with summertime, right? Schools wanting to get not only some of those late seniors right on campus, but really transitioning to that next class and wanting to get them, right, to come enjoy the visit experience as well. And so, Casey, where I'd love to start just is personalization, obviously, I feel like has been a buzzword in higher ed for I don't even know how long, 7, 8, 9 years, right? You all have done some pretty cool things down, in Gamecock land, obviously, the last few years with personalization. So what elements of personalization, even over the last year, are you seeing make the most impact, especially on your daily tours?
So I think a lot of y'all had a great AI conversation earlier, and I think trying to utilize AI, especially for how big of crowds we see, has been kind of a godsend for us. So one of our big programs we do here is that we actually, for our daily visits, intentionally separate students to tour guides based on their major interest, based on where they're from, if we can do it, based on their extracurricular interests, sometimes just based on vibes. We know our students really well, so sometimes it depends on that too. But it is a time-consuming process to do so, especially if you're seeing, we have some of our days in spring where we see 300 prospective students in a day. So we've actually started utilizing, USC has a great partnership with OpenAI, as well as Microsoft for Copilot. And we've started using those tools to actually separate those students out. So how that really works is it allows us to still provide that level of personalization where, for instance, if you have a student coming in who's an education major, we can intentionally place them with a education major ambassador, but it's not taking our staff, 3 hours to separate them all out beforehand and to move them in slate and to do all that stuff. So I think using using that, we call it prep, is what we call it. Using prep to intentionally put these visitors with our ambassadors is by far and away our most successful initiative in terms of helping them build that genuine connection with someone on campus when they weren't necessarily expecting to.
And so what then had to change, if anything, Casey, when you started implementing, those tools? Anything had to change internally in terms of like, hey, the team had to understand this, or like, how is the team there internally, right? Staff wise had to change with all that personalization and those tools you're implementing?
Yeah. So specifically on the AI front, USC is actually doing a very good job of teaching us how to use it, responsibly, ensuring data security, things like that. And so I think it's taken us all. And I think, someone had mentioned earlier where you usually have to be very precise with AI, and you used to have to be very exact with it, where now we're trying to teach our folks, you just have to have a conversation with the robot, basically. You don't have to go super nitty gritty with it. When we were building this tool to start doing prep with AI, it was simply just, I work at the University of South Carolina Visitor Center. I want to do this with our visitors. This is how we do it now. Try it out and see what happens. And you have to iterate a lot. And I think that that's another thing, was just teaching patience of it's not going to work on the first try. You're not going to get a product that you're proud of on the first try. You just have to iterate and iterate and iterate. And then the other key component was also having that human in the loop feature of, I think we get comfortable sometimes, especially with AI, just letting it do the work. But we get so comfortable, we don't always check it on the back end, right? And so human in the loop is the term that our IT team here has taught me of making sure that there's still a person in the process. And instead of working person to person, working with a computer that can't read situations very well and doesn't have that human aspect of it. So just really teaching all of us and working with all of us to learn how to work with the technology, I think has been certainly an adjustment. But I think, we have not to say that it's always a younger people get into this technology better and a little bit more easy because we grew up, with computers and with phones and everything. But we do have a little bit of a younger team, and I think that that's helped make it easy as well.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to ask you, and then I know Soup's got a question too. Talk to us if we don't, if I'm listening to this and I work on a campus and it's just Casey, all that sounds great, but we don't have that kind of technology, or we don't have that support, right, from our campus when it comes to AI and other tools like that. What are some other easy things that campuses can do to personalize this experience, whether it's pre-visit, during the visit, or post-visit?
Yeah, so I think pre-visit, a lot of it is just you use the student's name as much as humanly possible. It sounds super straightforward and super simple, but really, if you're, say, for instance, you're a Slate school, and I know Salesforce can do it too, using syntax and everything to customize your mailings. Our students all have access to a Slate portal. So that portal, we generate it when they register for their tour, and that has all of, their schedule in it, because we also schedule not only their general tours, but also their academic information sessions all in the same go. So having it all in one place where they can look at it, having it where we customize their parking information based on where they're going, just having that portal available to them. If you've got someone on your team who's a Slate wizard, and we're really lucky, our director, Rebecca Johnson, is one of the she's a Slate queen, absolutely incredible, and we love her dearly. So she's really helped us build a lot of these things out. So I think there's those, again, that communication of using their names beforehand, using it during their tour, and then post-tour, we actually have our students write them handwritten postcards. So we keep our rosters, we keep track of who checks in to their tours, and then we actually have them, based on that, write postcards to all of them. It's time consuming, yes, but the amount of students we have that enroll, and when they do enroll, we hear, oh, but I still kept my postcard. I have my postcard in my dorm room here. It makes a huge difference. So again, it's time consuming, but again, that's what we have students for. So
Casey, that literally, go ahead, Brad.
I just got this in the mail. I can tell that it's not handwritten, but I ordered this hat and this came with it. And I was like, I like it, but I can tell you didn't write this. This is just printed, but I like the handwritten. I love the handwritten.
Handwritten is phenomenal, Casey. And that literally leads into, I think, one of the things I'd love for you to share, if you can think of maybe a favorite time or favorite time when one of your student ambassadors had a really meaningful impact with a prospective student or family? Just something that comes to mind that really stands out.
So the amount of our ambassadors who come in on tour and say, I am an ambassador because of my guide. And then they end up serving together, and we have this really strong mentor-mentee like relationship in our training process. And so sometimes they'll be mentor-mentee, and just the amount of, I think, students who recognize their guides when they get to campus and either want to be ambassadors or are like, hey, high five, let's go. You were my tour guide. Yay. All of our guides also will have one-on-one conversations with every individual student. And that's a great time for students who are like, really struggling with the college search process. It's a stressful process. And I don't know how many of us in the field acknowledge that enough. And so like a lot of times that one-on-one time is also good for, we have students who have worries about financial aid and scholarships, who like these real problems that they have, and they don't want to talk about it in front of the big group. And so they talk about it one-on-one with our ambassadors. It creates, and again, especially if they're going to be the same major and that prep process worked, that's a really special thing. And then sometimes they come back to the visitor center and they're like, hey, Olivia, you were my tour guide. I've already been admitted. I want to deposit before I leave the building. We have that happen sometimes. And that just for us is such a rewarding feeling. And I know because that's what the ambassadors are here to do. They're here to tell the story of the university and tell their story. And if that story ends up bringing a student to become a Gamecock, that is just so special for all of us in here. And it happens more frequently than I think a lot of people think.
Man,
That's awesome.
I love it. Casey, I know we're getting ready to wrap up with you. I just want to say, Casey, your passion just shines through. And so it doesn't surprise me that all those student ambassadors show that same thing. Like, we just need so much more of that in our industry. And so I just wanted to acknowledge you. Like, I can just feel that passion. It's so amazing.
Well, thanks y'all.
Casey, don't jump. Casey, don't jump for a second, because Brad wants to read something.
Brian in the chat, who works at University of Minnesota Morris,
Yep.
says, let me find it again. My nephew's first college visit was a couple months ago at USC, and he had a great experience, raved about the tour guide too. So perhaps Brian's nephew will be a future tour guide at USC, as you're saying.
Come on in. We're always looking for great
gateway, right?
Come on in.
That's awesome.
Casey, thanks for spending a few minutes with us on this first Friday, and go Cox.
Yeah.
Go Cox. Thanks y'all for having me.
Thanks, Casey.
Awesome.
I'm telling you, the more I talk with, campus visit teams, and that's something I've started to do more, right, from a training standpoint. I had the honor to be, you all know Lori Green over at Butler, I had an honor, back in January to train their tour guides. And this is what I hear from tour guides, right, is somebody made an impact on me. Like, one of the first questions I asked, when I opened up their training was, put your hand up if you remember the name of your tour guide. And I expected, I'm going to get 5, 10. There was like 75 people in the room. I kid you not, like 3/4 of the room raised their hand. And I was like, and I'm seeing that more and more, right? And so it's just letting, your tour guides, if you're listening to this, or anybody, faculty, right, people who do the CRM stuff behind the scenes, like, everybody can make an impact, and you don't know when that impact's going to come. It's really those little moments that all add up, right?
I might add that to my litmus test. I have this test that if I can go into a school's cafeteria on campus and ask a table if they remember their admission counselor, the more people who can, the higher conversion yield that school will have. Yeah. And the fewer kids, the more likely they're going to be single digits for actual yield conversion. So I wonder if it would. Again, it's very qualitative, not quantitative,
but you're spot on, Brad, because we ask in surveys. We literally have, I still do this to this day when I do campus, visit surveys with those schools, a comment box that says, like, tell us what you remember about your visit experience. Like, what do you remember? And then, again, anonymous survey, no incentivizing the survey. There's no motivation for anybody to say anything nice about anybody. It's all anonymous. Mm-hmm. And the number of people who remember not just the first name and last name, but they spell it correctly. And then, like, the paragraphs they will write, like, again, it's awesome to see. And a lot of that doesn't happen if there's not a great leadership team, obviously. Supervising, I would argue, a lot of the campus visit and student ambassadors. And so as we segue into leadership,
can I just quickly shout out Raymond Barnett, my admission counselor, which led to my job in admissions first year as a tour guide. which led to me working in the marketing office, which led to me getting a job in the marketing office, which led to me to Butler, which led me to Blue Fuego. So counselors, you're changing lives out there.
Well, I mean, without question. And it's so important. And I think, Brad, that's just another reminder for leadership, right? Back on the idea of leadership, like celebrate those small moments when you hear things like that, because it's so important. It is happening more than you think. And I just wanted to bring up a couple of things before we welcome our final guest here, Connor Ellingheisen, in a few minutes here. But I've been having some conversations with senior leaders lately about a couple of things. Number one, and I had a woman named Jen McCarroll from University of North Carolina, Pembroke, on my podcast recently to talk about culture, and culture gets talked about a lot. And one of the things she brought up that I thought was very timely was, how do you spot cracks, right, in your culture, or if your culture in your office is deteriorating a little bit? And, kudos to Jen. I'll just quote what she shared on the podcast. So these are her thoughts, which I 100% agree with. But when you see people, I'll say, talking less to each other around the office, that could be first thing in the morning, that could be at lunchtime, during an event, during a team meeting, when you see collaboration start to wane, or when you have those team meetings and like people do not speak up when you prompt them, those are, for example, some of the signs that like something has changed within your culture. And as a leader, I would just encourage you to figure out, right, what has changed to obviously potentially create some of those cracks and deterioration, because it happens and it needs to be fixed and it's normal, but you've got to be looking for it, right?
You just said a word there, prompt, which takes me back to AI. Okay, real-time stream of thought here. I have a friend, and he often will reach out to me and say, hey, this broke. What do you like? I'm just a resourceful guy, right? And I made a joke to him, like, I hope you don't stop texting me and start asking AI to, fix your mower or the go-kart or whatever. But like in this environment where a lot of us are asked to be generalists, not specialists, right? And so exactly what you're talking about there, Jeremy, encouraging your team to still rely on each other and communicate with each other and troubleshoot with each other and problem solve with each other and lean on each other in scenarios. Yes, there is a time for efficiency, but efficiency destroys relationships a lot of times. And so that's, as you think of a culture, do we all just want to sit in our cubicles and like talk to AI to get our job done? Or do we want to collaborate with each other or bring in alternate perspectives there? So just a cautionary tale, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing real quick, and then we'll bring on Connor. To Brad's point, just thinking about like mentorship, right? I mean, it got talked by Casey earlier with that mentor-mentee relationship, with their tour guides at South Carolina. But like, I'm finding as I talk with more and more, especially young professionals, but even some senior leaders, they don't really have a lot of mentors. And so I really encourage you. I know Connor, who I'm about. Why don't we just bring Connor on, Brad, and make him a part of this?
Soup's got to clap twice.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
Brad.
Hey guys.
What's up, Connor?
Love the intro.
Connor, it's good to see you. I was just saying, Connor, I would love to get your thoughts on this, right? I know mentorship is something that has been important to you, and you and I have talked about this because we've known each other for years, right? I'll just turn it over to you. What has the value for you been in your higher ed career in terms of like having mentors and what it's allowed you to do as you grow?
Yeah. Thanks first for having me all on here. I really appreciate it. Mentorships are so vitally important. And that was actually made very clear to me very young in my career. I had a former vice president of mine, Dr. John Pyle, who he always said, Connor, this is a very small world and you never know, who knows you or who's going to connect with you or who's going to call you. And then another former VP of mine, Dan Meyer, he said the same thing. Like someday you're going to have that short list of these are the people that you can call whenever you need advice. And just one quick story I'll never forget. I became a director here at Buena Vista University in November of 2019, right before the world changed. And talk about a perfect time of using mentors, right? We were on the phone with friends, colleagues, mentors, all across the country, just asking for advice. Hey, what are you doing? Are you guys all remote? How are you going to handle this virtual visit? What the heck is a virtual visit? It was a time for us to really talk through ideas, but also just have the ability to just talk and vent and know that you had somebody that you could struggle with, kind of going through the same experience. And I think those sharing of ideas, but also sometimes it's just the validation of knowing like, hey, maybe we're doing the right thing, or maybe we're not so far off. I think it's those moments when you have mentors are really powerful to get you through some of those challenging times and realize that sometimes you're not alone.
So fun fact, and Connor just made me think about it. He talked about COVID, right? I kid you not, I was on Buena Vista's campus, when the world shut down, because I remember March 13th was a Friday, the 13th in 2020. And on March 12th, I remember sitting, in the hotel there in Storm Lake, Iowa, going, I really hope I'm going to get home tomorrow night. What is this going to look like?
Is that the
And I
one
think
with
I
the,
got one of those last rounds of flights before essentially the world shut down for a little bit. So again, I feel like things come full circle.
Yeah.
Connor also happens to be the president of the Iowa ACAC.
Mm-hmm.
And Connor, you and I have talked about this, but not just why should people get involved more in their local ACAC, but like help us understand again, what has you being involved in different ACACs over your career done for you?
I don't even know where to begin, because it's, I think the biggest thing for me is just building a network of understanding. I'm not from Iowa. I'm born and raised in Minnesota, started my career in Minnesota. Ironically recruited mostly Wisconsin, so not even my home state, when I started. But I didn't know much about Iowa, but joined, Iowa ACAC as early as I possibly could, and had some wonderful people that kind of pushed me along to join committees and get involved. And I think the biggest thing for me that it's really helped me to understand is, the changes that happen within each state. Iowa's been in the news a lot the last couple of years for, policy changes and things like that. And I think what's been really beneficial, thinking about the Iowa ACAC group, is having those shared discussions of, how do we handle some of the policies that might be coming through, and what are you guys thinking about at your institutions, has been extremely beneficial. And then also just, on a more personal note, it's been great to have that human interaction with others that are outside of the campus experience. Becoming a director and even vice presidents, sometimes there's this thought that the people who truly understand what's going on gets narrower and narrower, the higher up you go. But the reality is there's this wonderful network of other directors and vice presidents that you get a chance to meet with. And our group is wonderful. Whenever we have our conferences, we always do these like mid-level manager and VP roundtables, where we just sit and discuss and talk about some of the challenges that we're going through and how we're handling those. And I think that's been awesome to have. And I know I am forever grateful for those connections, because it's helping me, grow within this profession and become a better, version of myself, but also a better director for my staff and the students that we serve.
Connor, I want to ask a follow-up question.
Yeah.
And it's a trend that I feel like I've seen over the past few years. So, we're in Indiana. So I've been involved in Indiana ACAC for a long time. And I feel like there's a trend that I'm seeing where we're seeing maybe fewer of senior leaders committing and showing up at our regional affiliates and things. And I just would love to, I know how I feel about that, but you in a leadership role, I would love to hear your thoughts on, and maybe just encouraging words you would put out there to stress how vital this is, not just to send our first year counselors and let them have a little professional development experience, but our senior leaders staying involved with our state affiliates.
Yeah. Thanks, Sue, for bringing that up, because I think it's so true. And actually, a couple Midwests ago, so those of you online who aren't familiar, every other year, Iowa ACAC, the Dakota ACAC, Minnesota ACAC, and then Wisconsin ACAC all gather for what we call our super regional conference in the Midwest. And a couple years ago in Minnesota, this discussion actually came up. Why aren't there more mid-level to VPs actually coming to conferences and things like that. And, some of what you hear is, I think to Brad's point earlier is that, we're being asked to do a lot more things than maybe we were in the past. So we're wearing multiple different hats and whatnot. I think sometimes too, the question becomes is like, what more am I going to learn at these conferences? But what I find truly beneficial to myself is the networking opportunities that happen and the small connections that you're going to make, or the conversations that you're going to have in the hallway, the roundtable discussions where you get together and you just ask, how are you handling this specific problem? That's something that we've really been talking a lot about here in Iowa ACAC is how do we bring them back to get them to understand that these are complex challenges that we're all facing, but we don't have to do it alone. So having those one-off conversations is extremely beneficial. And nobody's saying that when you come to a conference, you have to go to every single session, right?
Right.
So we just had Midwest in Madison, and there was a time block where I actually went and just met with some senior leaders just to, rack their brain about some things that I've been thinking about. And, sometimes those more informal discussions, you can't replicate that over Zoom, and you can't replicate that just by scheduling it. Sometimes it's just, you're there at the conference, you meet somebody and you can have that, and you're not going to get that experience virtually online. So I think that's something that's so vitally important.
The other thing I was going to ask you, Connor, we've got about 2 minutes here, so I'd love to get your thoughts on this. For whatever reason, let's say you just don't go to your local ACAC, or you're not, for whatever reason, I'll say expanding your circle and getting mentors like we talked about earlier. Talk to us about what else then, whether it's a young professional or a senior leader, you can do that has worked well for you from just a personal / professional development standpoint. I mean, go with whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about two things real quick. The first is reflection. The second is about out of industry knowledge. So my 4-H background, we talk a lot about debriefing and reflection after, working with kids. You teach a lesson, you teach them what they need to know when they need to know it, but then you reflect back and you think about, what worked, what didn't work, what did we learn from that? Because sometimes for us to be able to truly learn a lesson or to be able to improve ourselves, reflection is a huge portion of how we're going to do that. And that is something for me that I do every single day. I do it also in bigger group settings. So at the quote unquote end of our recruitment cycle, whatever that means nowadays. So sometime, in the summer, we get together in our different units as well as a collective group, and we work through multiple different reflection talking points to think about how the year went and how we can change and adjust, or what are some ideas that we have. We also do something here at BV on Mondays. We have our Just Brew It, which is we just gather as a team. It's to replicate that kind of gathering around the workplace water cooler or the coffee, where we just discuss how our weekend went and, some of the challenges that we face. And our staff love that so much that we now meet on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for what we call Roundup. And sometimes they're 30 minutes, sometimes they're 10 minutes, but it's just a chance for us to regroup, talk about what's going to happen for that day. But then there's always time for reflection where we think about, how did that, day before go? How did it go? Or what could we have changed and adjusted? So we just had an event on campus, and that next day we were reflecting and thinking, wow, gosh, we wish we would have done that differently. Let's be prepped and ready for the next time that we go. But the second one that's really important is out of industry knowledge. And I can't stress this enough, because one of my biggest pet peeves, or one of the things that I really struggle in, this is something that now as Iowa ACAC president, I'm really pushing, is we tend to think that the only way that we can achieve things is by understanding our industry and only doing things based on how we do it in higher education. And I've heard that multiple times, like, oh, we have to do it this way because that's how you do it in higher ed. Why? I think is my question. There are so many great resources out there and people that are having to figure this out to gain consumer interest. right now I've been talking a lot about the ad campaigns right now and the war between Adidas and Nike that's going on between Anthony Edwards, AE1 shoes and 2s, and now Wemby. I mean, he's arrived, as Nike just said. We should be paying attention to that stuff because that stuff matters. But also, I want to give a couple book shout outs. 2 years ago, we read The Power of Moments. And it really got us to think about how do we create more of those momental experiences on campus. But then the book that really changed kind of my life and what I was thinking about is Unreasonable Hospitality. I knew you were going to point to that.
Behind me on my shelf. Awesome.
It is such an amazing book that really gets you to think about that personalized connection. And higher ed talks about personalization all the time, but we do it in the lens of higher ed when we should be doing it in the lens of truly personalizing that experience that makes these truly remarkable moments. And I don't think I would have learned any of that through higher ed unless I took time, to do that. So I do that myself, reading, paying attention to, what's happening in the marketplace. But then we also, as a staff, we always do summer reads every year. So we just selected our summer read for this summer, which is actually Setting the Table by Danny Meyer, who is the mentor of Will Guidara, who did Unreasonable Hospitality. So we're really excited about that because I think at the end of the day, it's all about lifelong learning of how we grow.
Yeah, love it.
Connor, appreciate you, my man. This was so good. Such a great conversation. Thank you for taking time. We know how busy you are. So thank you for taking some time out of your day just to chat with us. We appreciate you. But we are going to wrap things up. We'll see you, Connor. Thanks for joining. Real quick, because we're about a minute over, but just one quick takeaway from the show today. We'll start with you, Brad.
I just posted a quote from the book Contrarian's Guide to Leadership, Dr. Stephen Sample. I think he was president at USC at the time. But basically, the new people to the field are the people too naive and ignorant to not know all the reasons why things can't be done a certain way, to what Connor was saying. Listen to your younger audience. You look at our guest today and just some of the wisdom there from Casey and like the stuff they're trying with AI. They don't know all the reasons why a campus visit should go this way. So what I'm excited about, NACAP next week, hanging out with you guys in person. We've got the swag for the pickleball tournament.
Yes, and listen, hey, and
single elimination, cash prizes.
And listen, and I want to see. So next grad, we're sponsoring the 5K. I want to see if you're going to be at the NACAP conference with us next week. I want to see everyone out there running with me. I'll be dying. Super excited. One last thing to make sure we note: there will be no show for July, so we're going to take that month off. We hope everyone's taking some vacation time during that first week of July. We know you'll miss us. But don't worry, we'll be back the following month. But thank you all for joining live, spending some time with us. We appreciate you. Jeremy, one last thought before Brad takes us out of here.
Yeah, just tell somebody this week how much you appreciate them. I mean, we don't do that enough as humans. And so I'm excited to see a bunch of people at NACAC next week and tell them that. Brad, take us on out of here.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
See you in Minnesota.
We are the Crossroads crew, bringing that fire to you. From the dorms to the boardrooms to raise up the you. Raise up the you. Every day we see it through. Higher ed dreams coming true. Brad Ward, drop the beat, let the whole place move. Crossroads crew.